Good morning. I know people are starting to still trickle in, but it's time, so we will start worship for the morning. Welcome. And I have to always remind myself, so apologies. I have to welcome everybody on Zoom. I know that a few folks are out sick. It's that time of year again. My arm still hurts from a flu shot. So welcome all those on Zoom as well. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor. This morning on the first Sunday of October. And we have a wonderful guest in our pulpit, Reverend Margaret Beckman. She's been with us before, and we are delighted to see her again. Thank you. We have an incredibly busy fall season that we are diving into the deep end with. So please bear with me. There are a lot of announcements. Most of them are also touched on in your order of service if you picked one up. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. I don't see Kathy Elliott here today, but Kathy Elliott is beginning to coordinate baskets for the auction. She wants by the end of this month, if you are a part of a committee and you're putting a basket together, to get her a theme, photos and contents and things by Thanksgiving weekend in November. And the basket auction will be online on Zoom 12/14. So stay with that because that's always a fabulous experience and a big fundraiser for this community. Message from Christine Sprague in the office, and I saw that there are some pens and I think a sample directory out there on the piano. I saw it this morning. We're looking to have our UUSB directory updated. Just check your listings. If an address or a phone number are incorrect, please correct them. And I updated a photo of myself because the other one was like 20 years old. So if you have a new or even a color photo of you you'd like to have in the directory, please send that to Christine by the 1st of November.
And tell us, what if I'm not in the directory? What do I do?
I guess you'd have to send all your information to Christine Sprague, UUSB office. Yes, thank you. Next Sunday, worship will be with Reverend Drew again, and we are starting, he has discussed with the worship committee a new task, well, a new opportunity, based on even some things from our congregational survey. Next Sunday, October 13th, we're going to have our first worship lab. So you'll be meeting with him after the service to do an informal sit down and talk about worship and your ideas for worship and the worship theme and any other suggestions or ideas you want to chat with the minister about. So look forward to that. Next Sunday is also second Sunday in the month, and we have food collection, and remember to bring something. Grocery cards. Leanne Grogan will be out there today. Please drop by and know that if any of you do indeed shop at Hannaford's, that by buying a grocery card, you're basically spending the same amount of money. They're just giving you a card for the value of the purchase, but we get a cut. So this is a great fundraiser for our community again. So if you do shop at Hannaford's, if you shop somewhere else, that's fine. But if you shop at Hannaford's, we're selling grocery cards. Leanne will be there after church this morning in the Dorothy Memorial. Ask her a little bit about them if you're unfamiliar, you've never used them before. Gosh, we're really stumping for the yard sale. You'll see little handout flyers. There's some more up here on the divider, and we're looking for as many people to know about it. So use these flyers to post for publicity for it. It's usually a very big event and a fairly successful one, and we just need it to do so again. Also in your program, you'll see in a couple of Sundays, we are going to have something we haven't had in this congregation in many years, definitely pre-COVID, and that's a fire drill. So no regrets, we will not be doing it in the middle of worship. We're going to be doing it after the service, but it's just a heads up. It's an organized, no panic, but organized fire drill so that we'll be able to all practice where we would go in case there was a drill, even during a service. Also in your program, the Standing Up for Racial Equity meeting is going to be downstairs in the community cafe at 11:30. We're reading Darren Bell's Pulitzer Prize graphic novel called The Talk, and it's fabulous. So whether you've read it or not and you want to come drop in, we're going to be there at 11:30. One last thing from Kaz Childs, is the Halloween Hullabaloo, October 27th at 10 o'clock. This is actually on Sunday. The kids are going to be welcomed to come in costume, and we are encouraged as adults, if we would like, to dress in costume as well. So do dress up. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. So that's the Halloween Hullabaloo. Now, one new thing that we're adding, maybe Carrie, you would help out with this if we need it. We're just welcoming anybody that's new and has never been with us in this congregation for worship this morning. If you are new and would like to identify yourself, you could raise your hand and have an opportunity to introduce yourself. Anybody? All right. All right. Well, I will turn this now over to Reverend Beckman, and she'll give us our opening words.
Good morning. There you go. Oh, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. I have a bit of a cold, so if you hear my voice crack, don't worry about it. I'll get over it. But it does mean no hugging and kissing at the end of the service. So consider each and every one of you sufficiently hugged and kissed. I invite you to come into that space where you feel most centered, whole, and at one with all that is. Let us take a breath together and come into our space. Listen. Can you hear it? The Spirit is calling. It calls us in the silence and through the noise and busyness of our daily lives. It calls us in the brightness of the day and the darkness of the night, in times of hope and despair. Listen, can you hear it? The Spirit is calling. It doesn't matter what you call it, for it has no name and many names. The Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of compassion, Spirit of hope, Spirit of justice, still small voice. Listen, can you hear it? The Spirit is calling. It's calling to you and to me. It's calling us to greater wholeness, greater connection, greater service, and greater love. It's calling us to heal the brokenness within ourselves, in each other, and in the world. It's calling us to live more deeply. It's calling us to beauty. It is calling us to laugh and dance and sing. It's calling us to live through life's pain and sorrow. It's calling us to live courageously and kindly, to speak our truth in love, and to bend the moral arc of the universe toward justice. It's calling us into community. It's calling us into the greater life of all. Listen. Can you hear it? The Spirit is calling us. And in this moment, it is calling us into worship and our time together. Oh, enjoy it.
This is a place where I stop and listen. Stop and listen to the ancient wisdom. And I don't know where that wisdom resides. Could be the earth, could be the sky, could be this great big white pine tree, could be the wisdom lives in me. Doesn't really matter where it comes from. All I know is I can hear it when I stop that busy thrum. When the waters of my mind become still like a mirror, the voice of wisdom sings loud and clear. This is a place where I stop and listen. Stop and listen to the ancient wisdom. And I don't know where that wisdom resides. Could be the earth, could be the sky, could be this great big white pine tree, could be the wisdom lives in me. Doesn't really matter where it comes from. All I know is I can hear it when I stop that busy thrum. When the waters of my mind become still like a mirror, the voice of wisdom sings loud and clear.
We wish Linda, who would have been here to sing that in person, but she's not feeling well. We wish her a speedy recovery because we miss her, but that is gorgeous. Lighting the chalice this morning is Devin. The echo of inner wisdom. We light this chalice to remember the light within, to know that the hunger we feel inside is an echo of inner wisdom that wants something more for us, for others, for this weary yet wonderful world. Blessed be. Now you may rise if you were willing and able to sing our opening hymn, number 1010. We give thanks, that is also in your teal hymnal. Now, for all those young and young at heart, a few who will be heading down to their class after the story, please join me on the rug for a story. Good morning. So some of you may know this story before. I'm crowding you out, Bridget. No? It's called The Rabbit Listened. So our theme for October is the practice of deep listening. So let's begin. One day, I'm going to show you the pictures after I read. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special. He had his blocks. Something amazing. Taylor was so proud. I don't know if any of you guys have done anything that elaborate with your colored block sets. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. So I think that was a murder of crows that just knocked down Taylor's construction project. The chicken was the first to notice. Quack, 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 quack. What a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. Cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. Grrr, ow, how horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Grrr, rawr, rawr. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trumpa-da. I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant left. One by one they came. The hyena, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, nope, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, tis, tis, what a mess, let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go knock somebody else's down, shh. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody, so eventually they all left until Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit. But it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." So that is the end of our story. Perhaps at some point in one's life, we've all had a brother or a sister or a friend or somebody not acting all that friendly do something that really took us down. And it's the real true friend or person who stands there and just listens till you process it all through and can begin again. So thank you for listening, and now you may go down to your classes. Would you like to go down and just hand candles out, or do you want Carrie to do it? I can do it. Okay. All right. So we all hold stories, and we really value and cherish the power of this beloved community to listen and just be us as we share those stories of joys, sorrows, things that make us angry, things that make us sad. So, Carrie, you'll get the lit candle.
And do we light a candle here for all these joys and sorrows and concerns and all those that are in our hearts in our daily lives that remain unspoken? May we all carry the joys of others so that they may be expanded in the universe, and may we carry the burdens of others that they may be lightened.
Reverend Margaret will now lead us in a meditation.
Words of meditation from Gary Kowalski. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all. Maybe it means just listening, unplugging the TV, turning off the computer, quieting the mental chatter and distractions. Maybe it means listening to the birds and the insects, the wind in the leaves, the creaking and groaning of the trees, noticing. Who else is out there, not far away, but nearby, sitting so still we can hear our heartbeat, watch our breath, the gentle whoosh of air, the funny noises from our own insides, marveling at the body we take so much for granted. Maybe it means listening to our dreams, paying more attention to what we really want from life, and less attention to all the nagging, scolding voices from our past. Or maybe it's all about listening to each other, not thinking ahead to how we can answer or rebut or parry or advise or admonish, but actually being present to each other. Perhaps if we just sit quietly, we'll overhear a peace whispering through the centuries that's missing from the clamor of this moment. Maybe prayer means listening to the silence between the words, noticing the negativity of space, the vast, undifferentiated, and nameless wonder that underlies it all. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all, but listening with the heart to the angel choirs all around us. For those who hear in whatever way they can, let us hear.
We'll now have our morning offering. The collectors can come forward. The undesignated cash in the plates this morning and for the whole month of October will be raising funds for HEAL, Health Equity Alliance. So please be generous as the plates are passed.
inside all, I hear you call, singing. In dark and rain, sorrow and pain, still you remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
So beautiful, Rissa. Thank you. Our reading this morning is from the Kalama Sutta. Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed down for many generations. Do not believe in anything because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe in anything simply because it is found written in your religious books. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders, but after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefits of one and all, then accept it and live up to it. Namaste.
There is a voice that speaks from deep inside, that whispers all day long. I feel this is right for me. I know that this is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise one can decide what's right for you. Just listen. The voice that speaks inside. It's a poem written by Shel Silverstein, who I think is familiar to you through things like The Giving Tree. The poem is called The Voice. It's from a book of poetry and drawings called Falling Up. And if you're curious, go Google that poem, Falling Up. The voice that speaks from deep inside. Don't believe everything you think. Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it again and again and again. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. It's that still, small voice. And honestly, I advise you not to Google that phrase, unless you have a whole lot of time to hop down a whole lot of bunny trails leading to a whole lot of completely different views about the still small voice. And yet, can we not sort of agree that there is something compelling about this notion that each of us, any of us, all of us, can or might hear the still small voice communicating within? In times of great joy and clarity, and in times of sorrow, pain, and confusion. Now, you might think that Glenn Kaler and I talked before the service, but we didn't. But he gave a brilliant example of how that small voice might work. And believe me, you don't have to believe in God for that little voice to say to you, maybe it's water. Maybe it's water. And then you doubt that still small voice, and so you check it with your lived experience that says, well, they raised the price of soda and they don't have the large cup anyway. So maybe it's the still small voice that whispers. Maybe it's water. So I invite you this morning to take some of your precious, serious time to listen for the still small voice communicating within you. I'll suggest a few ways that you might understand the voice, and then you'll decide how to live. When we get to the end, I'll offer 3 words: intention, attention, awareness. There'll be a quiz. Intention, attention, awareness. But let me begin by saying just a little bit about the still small voice. Somebody said to me, where does that even come from, that phrase, the still small voice? Well, in our culture, it comes from 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12. Elijah, the prophet, is bemoaning his situation where he's been telling the people all that he thinks God told him to tell the people, and the people are like, yeah, whatever. And he takes himself off to the mountain, and he lies down, and he screams out to the universe, just let me die. And the voice comes to him and says, what are you doing? Get up. Go to the top of the mountain. Well, it takes Elijah 40 days to get to the top of the mountain. Not my story. He lies down again and says, I'm just so tired. The people hate me. They're going to kill me. Just let me go. And the voice comes again and says, get up. There's a whirlwind, and everything is a mess, but not the voice of God. There's an earthquake that shakes the mountain to its very foundation, but not the voice of God. And the floods come raging. And Elijah looks and looks and looks, does not find God in the flood. And Elijah sits back down, stills his heart, and God comes as a still, small voice. So that's basically where it comes from. But what people have done with that 3 words is all over the place. Some of you are quite familiar with this still small voice. You've known it for many years, maybe your whole life. Some of you maybe once in a really big and important way, maybe in a smaller way. Some of you may say, I'm not quite sure. Maybe I've heard that small voice, and maybe I haven't. But maybe it was just my imagination, or maybe it was just wishful thinking. And some of you will say, well, whatever that voice is, it's really our own inner wisdom, the voice of reason, or conscience. And then some of you will say, oh, but the small voice to me is the inner light, the spark of the divine that lives in all of us, that lights our way. And I would say, yep, you're all absolutely correct. And so how is it? In our song Rissa just sang for us, the voice is a still small voice of comfort and reassurance. The poet says, the voice still and small, deep inside all of us. And I hear you call, singing. When? Well, in dark and rain, in sorrow and pain, still singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. That still small voice comes singing. This is that still small voice that shows up for us when we suffer in one way or another, or in so many ways. It is an acknowledgement of the presence of the still small voice, and it's a prayer of gratitude. I know that voice is there through all the years, singing. I hear you call. That still small voice comes in a very personal way. It calms my fears. It quenches my tears. I think that's a lovely, lovely sentiment. But also, deep inside all of us, this voice is universal. It is the still small voice of love. The love that is always with us, that energizes all life in the universe, and that will never let us go. When we hear this voice, our prayer may be one of gratitude. And when we cannot hear that voice, our prayer may be one of longing to hear the singing. That voice does not promise to take away the fears or the tears, the storms, the darkness or the rain. That voice promises to remain present throughout. In the Quaker religious tradition, the still small voice is the inner discernment that comes from quieting the body, the mind, and the soul long enough and thoroughly enough to hear the pure sound of that still small voice. The Quakers expect to hear the voice, and it is their practice in their meeting format to create the conditions when each person will most likely have the opportunity to hear the voice. They sit in silence together in a circle. No teacher, no preacher, no president of the board. We're all just seekers, listening in quiet together. And when the still small voice comes, take it in and hold it. Now, in a Quaker meeting, at some point, some member of the circle may choose to speak aloud, and the gathered people will listen. That's how they make decisions. That's how they decide how to spend their money. It's how they decide what to do when the dark cloud is overhead, or when illness visits, or when grief cannot be satisfied. They listen. Listen. For people who want divine or spiritual guidance in determining how to live, that is probably how the still small voice will come to them. And then what they do in response to that voice is for them the life of faith and service. Most often, although not always, that still small voice does not provide a detailed syllabus or step-by-step instructions of what to either do or sometimes in my life not do, which gives rise to the Shel Silverstein saying, listen to the voice. It will tell you what's right for you and not right for you. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise one can decide what's right for you. Listen to the voice that speaks inside. And I agree with that, and I also want to say I'm pretty sure it's not quite that simple. I don't think that we each already contain all we need to make the most skillful and beneficial choices and decisions. Well, I certainly agree that no preacher, parent, friend, or wise one can decide for us. I also maintain that their counsel and knowledge may well be needed or helpful in order for the voice inside me to help me decode the situation and understand what's right. Phyllis read for us from the Buddhist text, the Kalama Sutta, and the Kalama Sutta is named for a group of people who were living in India at the time of the Buddha, who were unfamiliar with the Buddhist teachings, but were captivated, nevertheless, by those same teachings. And when they came to the Buddha, they questioned him about everything. And they questioned him intensely about how to recognize wise and authentic teachings. And his advice to them? Test everything. Test everything I say. Test everything any teacher says. Use whatever tools you have at your disposal. Take all of the information that you have gathered or has been given to you and subject that to your own experience, reason, and wisdom. Only when the still small voice resonates with your analysis is it right to accept and let it guide your life. We can be fooled by a still small voice. It's not that hard, trust me. We think we know, but as the Quakers maintain, you won't hear the actual still small voice until you let go of ego, the need to be right, that sense of self-righteousness that is so easy to carry with us wherever we go. But the voice that comes from that place is the voice of ego and self-righteousness, and perhaps not the voice of your inner wisdom, the light within you. And so test it. Test it. And the Buddha taught many things. He's often quoted as having said, "Don't believe everything you think." Well, you know, I looked it up. He did not say that. Doesn't sound like him, even in a contemporary English translation. But what he probably did say to his followers is, be lamps unto yourselves. Be your own confidence. And that's the message contained in the Kalama Sutta. Subject all of the teachings that you receive to the light that shines from your own lamp. your own inner light, your own inner wisdom, your own life experience and exercise of reason. Trust yourself by verifying the skillfulness of everything that comes to you from others. Don't take it without observation. Don't jettison it without observation. We do not want to devalue the importance of teachers or the examples of great leaders or worthy lives. We simply do not want to follow with closed eyes and deaf ears. So what? Well, I'm persuaded that we need to develop a practice of discernment. And we need it more and more in these times of false teaching, alternative facts, and people who tell more lies than they do truth. I'm persuaded that we need to quiet ourselves in the presence of all the noise that surrounds us with sound bites and headlines and inflammatory rhetoric from those who seek to persuade or convince us. And trust me, I'm not only talking about the dishonesty of the other guys. I'm talking about the dishonesty that can come from my guys. I'm talking about everything that I hear that right away, like this seems right, that agrees with me, with my first inclination, that supports my vision of, yes, that's how things ought to be. All of it. My teachers, my heroes, my role models, subject it to the still small voice. Shine your own lamp on that and test it out. Everything that I allow to guide me in my life ought to pass through the fiery furnace of analysis, and then let the still small voice come. Only after I've set aside my ego, this is my favorite, self-righteousness. How do we do this, and when does it happen? And is that still small voice? And I wanted to say something about stillness, the stillness of that voice. In some cases, it's the calm, the whisper, the low volume, just that faintest internal hearing. But sometimes it's the voice that is still coming to me. Time after time after time. I think that still small voice has a patience and a persistence that is as much as it needs to be to get my attention. And sometimes it works in big ways and sometimes in small ways. Sometimes that voice comes often enough that I really have to think about changing perspectives or approaches. Sometimes that still small voice holds me because I can speak. You know how sometimes your mouth is going forward before your brain is in gear? So maybe it's that still small voice that says, quiet, wait. How does it work in bigger ways? Well, I'll tell you a story about the persistence of the still small voice that gets tested in the furnace of real life. I was 15 years old when the still small voice came to me and said, "You're called into the ministry." I was 15. this congregation ordained me to that ministry 20 years ago, but 30 years after that still small voice. The persistence of that voice had to be tested against my own experience and what was happening all around me. And as many of you know, the time and the place for ministry was not right when I was 15. It was not right when I was 20. It was not right when I was 25. It was not right when I was 30. It was right when I was 40, because the world had changed with me. And the voice came again and said, now? You know, I wonder if the still small voice came to Liz Cheney. Sometimes that still small voice will say things that you do not want to hear. It's not always easy, it's not always fun, it's not always comforting, that still small voice. So let me come back to my 3 words. Intention. What is my intention in listening to the still small voice? Do I carefully and consciously create conditions where truth may be received? And do I really want to know what is authentic and useful in the world? And am I ready to accept it? If my intention is simply to be reinforced in what I already think, believe, and do, maybe not so much. So intention is important, to sit with an authentic intention. And then I ask, am I paying attention to everything that might be truth? Am I giving the content of the sheer cacophony of current events and life the attention needed to sort out, as we might say, the wheat from the chaff, the truth from the falsehood, the useful from the harmful? That's not an easy way to hold your attention. It's much easier to simply go with what seems okay at first blush than to stop and check that my intention is real and my attention is undisturbed by my own ego and self-righteousness. Do I want to learn rather than to be admired? And lastly, do I maintain an honest awareness of all the things that help or hinder my quest for the wisdom that comes from that still small voice? There are causes and conditions that help and those that hinder. My awareness of my own temptations and weaknesses, as well as my awareness of my skillfulness for discernment, are necessary for holding on to the truth that is my own and that works for me. Our Unitarian Universalist faith provides for us, you ready for this? 6 values with love at the center. Provides for us a set of principles which some of us can still say from memory, and a set of sources of sacred knowledge and wisdom. One of the principles that you will recall, and I'm not quoting the principle, I'm just paraphrasing it. Each of us seeks truth, wisdom, and meaning in our own life. And we, as a congregation, help each other. We help each other in that quest. None of us needs to be alone in listening to the still small voice. It may be my own version of that still small voice, but in community, in covenant with all of you who have made a promise to be part of a congregation that supports each other, This is a beautiful way to test the veracity of what I'm hearing. For we don't all agree. The congregation is not made up. I know this is going to surprise you and disappoint you. A congregation is not made up only of like-minded people. It's made up of people who promise to be together in the search for truth and meaning, and in building the world we want our grandchildren to the 7th generation to inherit. And then we also have our own inner values, our own moral compass, our own set of principles. And that too, we share in community to say, well, my value in this moment is compassion. It's not about getting the most money, it's about demonstrating the most compassion. And so we have to throw all of those things. You hear the still small voice, or you hear the teachings and all of the stuff that's out there. Remember being taught how to test the spaghetti? You throw it against the wall, and if it sticks. So it's kind of like that, in community with our Unitarian Universalist siblings, friends, neighbors. We test because we can, and because we have promised each other the safe place to do it. The still small voice isn't easy. There are times in our life that are just truly horrible. And perhaps the only thing you have right then is that still small voice that may be singing. But you may also get a glimpse. When you light your lamp and look at it, you might be able to see a way forward. Listening for the voice that can guide us with right intention, close attention, and a keen awareness of our own strength may be our most skillful and beneficial way to live a life worth living and sharing. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. This is, our closing hymn is in the Teal book. It's, I think it's 1011. Return Again. This is a Jewish song. You may know that we've just come through Rosh Hashanah, and we are in the days of awe. And this song is reflective of that.
First 2 lines twice, the last 4 lines twice, and then the first 2 lines twice again.
We extinguish our chalice and take the warmth of its light with us. Now may our wisdom show itself in compassion and understanding, and may the fruits of the Spirit be apparent in our lives. Let us go in